Hey Bronze Brigade, it has been a while, but I am back with another video. And in this video, I'm going to be recapping the top comic books that I picked up in 2023. All right, so real quick, before I talk about these awesome comic books I picked up in 2023, I want to talk about an awesome comic book that's coming out in 2024. Like a lot of comic fans, I really enjoyed Trish Forstner and Tony Fleece's comic book, Stray Dogs. And they're coming out with a new comic book called Feral. This looks really awesome. It's been very highly publicized. I think a lot of people are anticipating this follow-up to Stray Dogs, kind of a spiritual successor. But what we're going to get is an awesome new comic book from one of our sponsors, Gamma Base Comics over on Facebook. They're launching a really cool exclusive I wanted to tell you about today. It's a little bit unique. It's an homage to Return of the Living Dead, which is really cool. I mean, you know how Tony Fleece and Trish Forstner love to do all these horror movie or classic movie genre homages, right? And so this one is actually done by one of the two guys that runs Gamma Base Comics. Chris Gugliotti is actually a comic book artist as well, and he's doing the cover to this, which is really a neat twist on this, right? One of the people from the company is actually doing the cover, and it turned out really well. I think this is, if you're a fan of Return of the Living Dead, or if you're a fan of Stray Dogs, or of the new, if you're looking forward to the new upcoming series, I think this is kind of a must get for you. So I want to offer something kind of special to my viewers. You can go buy a copy of the comic book, and if you do, you're going to get entered for a chance to win a signed and remarked copy when it launches. There's really only two things you have to do. You have to go buy a copy at the link that's in the description below, and you also need to go post on their business page over on Facebook with the order number so that we know that you watched this video and you followed the instructions. The base comic is just $19.99, although there are some graded options available as well if you want to go for those. But yeah, just $19.99. It's limited to 500 copies, which is a nice, lower print run. Also, I just have to say, like, I've been talking about Gamma Base for a while on here. You've seen Scott come on, like the charity auction I've done. He's from Gamma Base Comics. They're a really upstanding shop. They're where I'm getting most of my comics. I'm following their auctions they do for their vintage comics. That's kind of where most of the comics you see me picking up these days are coming from. I've had nothing but good experiences over there, so I highly recommend them. They've got a good track record. They were one of the first live sellers over on Facebook, and they've had an outstanding reputation ever since then. All right, so just to recap, go pick up a copy of Feral from the Gamma Base Comics website. I'll put the link in the description below. Then paste your order number onto their Facebook business page. That link is also in the description. And then all you have to do is wait and kick back on the last Thursday in March when the comic book comes out, or the week the comic book comes out. We're going to go ahead and do a drawing, and we'll figure out who won the comic book that's going to be signed and remarked by the cover artist, Chris Gugliotti. All right, now back to the comic books I picked up in 2023. Hey, I'm Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and every year for the last few years, I've been doing a top 10 list to buy, like 10 comic books that I want to pick up in that year. Now, in 2022, I did not complete my list, but in 2023, did I get all 10 comic books? Let's find out. I'm going to go through the list for 2023, and then once I get through that list, I'm actually going to just talk about some other comic books that I picked up in 2023 kind of quickly. So this is kind of a fun collector-focused video. Let's get right to it. So not only did I pick up Star Wars Rise of Kylo Ren #3, which is the first appearance of Avar Kriss in Cameo. Very cool comic book. I'm glad to have it in the collection. I actually grabbed a second copy at Washington State SummerCon, and who was there? Charles Soule, and I had him sign it. So that's pretty cool. I had him sign it, got a little conversation with him and Ryan Brown, and talked about 8 Billion Genies and Star Wars and stuff. So I actually had ordered a copy previously to that. So I have a non-signed copy and a fully signed copy now, which is really fun. So I will discuss prices in this video. I actually paid $3.99 for the copy off eBay plus shipping, whatever that worked out to be. For the copy at Washington State SummerCon, I paid $10 for that copy, but it was in a better condition, and it was kind of nice because I was getting one signed. I wanted to have one that wasn't signed. I figured, why not? So yeah, good price on that book. So yeah, very excited to have that book in the collection. I also have her first full appearance, of course, of Avar Kriss, which is High Republic #1, so that's not a problem there either. And I'm just happy to have those books in my collection. All right, one of my big comic goals for 2023 was to pick up a copy of Giant Size Chillers #1. This is the Bronze Age version with the first version of Lilith in Marvel Comics. And I was very excited to get this one. So this is a book that I wanted to get it in slightly better condition, but I was acceptable with getting it in lower condition. And I did get it in a pretty low condition. This is probably like a 2.5 or so. and I got it for $30. So I picked it up on eBay. It wasn't a bad price. I've been watching them. They're probably more affordable now, but considering I picked this up back in May, I feel like that's not too bad. But one of my goals was to get into more Bronze Age horror, so I figured like that's a pretty good book to get into. And I've got some Tomb of Dracula books coming from Gamma-based comics now, so I'm going to be having some Bronze Age horror to read. It's pretty exciting. Another comic book I picked up back in May, Dave Stevens has been a big interest to me, and Dave Stevens is going to continue to be a trend as I start picking up comic books. I really want to collect some of his body of work, since it's unfortunately not very vast, since he passed away pretty early in his life, but I do want to pick up some of those key books. Last year I got Planet Comics #1, which was extremely exciting. Still my favorite cover of his, but I did pick up this Alien Worlds #4, and this is in like a VF plus near mint minus condition. So getting this for, let's see, back in May I got it for $14.99 from eBay. Not a bad pickup at all, and I'm pretty excited about that. Again, probably something you can get for a little bit cheaper now, but values were still coming down back then, and it's a gorgeous copy, so that's exciting. All right, this next one is for those booty cover lovers out there. This is some Joseph Michael Linsner, just greatness. My favorite cover he ever did. If you're a fan of Dawn, you're going to love this. This book is actually pretty hard to find, and that's something that's an overused term in comic book collecting, especially by people on YouTube, but this one really is fairly hard to find. You're not going to find it in high condition usually, ever, it seems like. So those comic books are pretty coveted. This one, I actually got 2 copies this year. One was signed by one of the creators, not any of the notable creators. It would have been awesome if it was signed by Joseph Michael Linsner. However, this one is in better shape. So this is the one I'm going to show. And this is Cry for Dawn 5C, which is the second printing, and it's a great booty cover. Gorgeous book. I actually have this one in a clear backing board, so I can show you the back pretty easily on that one too. I probably have this at about an 8.5, and I paid $70 for it. That's a really good price actually for this book. I'd say that usually you see this book go for, at least when I was watching, you'd see it go for about 100 plus for a copy that's anywhere in mid-grade to low-end high-grade. And that was another book that was part of a flurry I picked up back in May. Now, one of the tenets that I talk about is I am actually perfectly fine being a low-grade collector. Now, I prefer higher-grade comic books, of course, pretty much always. There's actually a weird few exceptions where I don't mind the low-grade and I prefer it almost for nostalgia reasons or because I like the damage that's on the comic book. I feel like sometimes it adds some character to the comic book. But yeah, generally I'd prefer a higher-grade comic. That said, there's so many times in my collecting history that I've noticed that if I had just picked up the comic book when it was affordable and I had a copy of it, I'd be so much happier than trying to hunt an unaffordable, super expensive comic book. One comic book that I've been looking for a long time because I'm a big Harley Quinn fan is the first appearance of Harley Quinn. So in 2023, I added that to my collection with this copy of Batman Adventures #12. Now, it is a 6.0, so obviously it's a lower grade comic, a mid-grade comic, but for a 90s book, that's saying something. I mean, that's definitely something that I would almost consider low grade for a 90s book. But you know what? It was a mass-produced children's book, primarily a children's book, so a lot of them are in really low condition out there anyway. Of course, there's plenty of high-grade examples out there, and I did buy this book back in April. If I'd waited, I probably could have I know I could have gotten a better price on it. But I feel like it was, the right time, the right price when I bought it, and I don't regret that. So with taxes and shipping back in April, I paid $400 for this. So I feel like that's not too bad, even by today's standards. I mean, yeah, you could get a better deal on it, but I don't feel like I got hosed or anything. So in fact, just looking on cover price right now, the FMV on a 6.0 is currently $455 according to cover price. I'm just using that as a barometer. I mean, there's probably better metrics out there. I could look at Go Collect and GPA analysis and all that. But I'm happy with it. And honestly, I'm just so excited to have a first appearance of Harley Quinn. I mean, there's so many comic books that when I got back into the hobby, I regretted not having added to my collection years ago. First appearance of Deadpool, first appearance of Harley Quinn, stuff like that. And having those books in my collection now, it just feels like a more complete collection as a fan of those characters. But on the note of it being a 6.0, this is a book that I would be very happy to upgrade the condition of. And here's the thing. Harley Quinn's always gonna be me. I'm not gonna have a hard time selling a 6.0 first appearance of Harley Quinn. It's not gonna be something that's gonna be sitting on the market for too long. So if I do find a better copy, I'd love to find one in the wild. instead of buying one off eBay, for example, that would be awesome. And I'd love to, move this copy on to somebody else who wants it and find a better one. But if I never do, hey, guess what? I still have a copy of the first appearance of Harley Quinn, and that's still awesome to me. Next on the list is one that I did not really expect to go after or want to go after as hard in 2023 before I made my list. But as I was making my list, I really decided, you know what? As a pretty big Wolverine fan, this is a comic book that I wanted to add to my collection, having most of the other big Wolverine books, except for the first full appearance in Hulk 181, which is something that I'm definitely going to be considering in the next few years. But I have a lot of the main books. This is more of in that iconic cover art category. It's not really a key for any other reason, but I do love the cover, and there's just something about the art that the more I looked at it, and not owning it, I really wanted to. So this is one I tried to add at a lot of conventions that I went to, tried to add a lot of shops. And something that's interesting with this book is in shops and at conventions, people really wanted more for it than it's actually worth on the market, on the open market. So despite wanting to pick up a copy locally, I just couldn't make a deal with anybody that was kind of at fair market value for it. And this is Hulk 340. So this is a 9.0 copy of this book, and that's kind of the bottom level of quality I was comfortable getting. It is a newsstand for what it's worth. And the cool thing about it is I picked it up for $180, actually $179, and looking at cover price, the current FMB on it is $180. So considering I picked it up, back in the spring, I think that's a really good price on this book, and I'm pretty happy to still have it at that value. So I'm not really going in the order I picked these up, but this next one's kind of cool. That actually the next two are pretty neat because they involve viewer interactions that I really appreciated. So one of the books that I really wanted to add to the collection, being a big Cyclops fan, and I'm a fan of the Summers family in general, is I wanted to add the first appearance of Hope in Cable 21. And some of you are probably saying, like, well, isn't her first appearance in X-Men 205? And technically, yeah, her first appearance as a baby is in X-Men 205, but her first adult appearance is in Cable 21. And I really wanted to get that comic book. So as I was approaching the end of the year, I made a post about, like, what, I'm just going to have to go after this comic book and probably pull the trigger and order it back in December. And I did. I ordered a copy of it. I think I paid $15 for it. Okay, I lied. It was actually $21 with shipping or whatever. So yeah, it was probably like $15 before the shipping. But it was funny because I made that post, and one of my viewers, a really great member of the community, Frog Brawler, he and I had been talking about a copy of Cable 21 because I'd mentioned it I think on a stream, and he DM'd me, and he had a copy of it that he said he got. It was in really rough shape, and so he wanted to press it, and it was like, hey, I'm more than happy to send you this comic book. Do you want me to press it? And we can talk about price and all that stuff afterwards. I think something like along those lines. And he was pressing it, and he did some really great work. It's a really rough copy of Cable 21. But I was more, especially for a book that new and it's not really that expensive, I was looking for something a little higher grade. But we never really finished that conversation. We actually talked about a lot of other stuff. I had a really good conversation with him about some other things that are of a more personal nature in his life. So he sent me the comic anyway. Like I said, posted up that I was probably going to be picking up the comic book, but he sent me, I'll read you the note he sent me here real fast. He said, "Hey Chris, Ban, thank you for the added surprise to go along with the Avengers Annual 10. That was from the Heroes for Heroes charity auction. I sent him some extra stuff, including a sketch. I am a big Something is Killing the Children fan." So it was an Erica Slaughter sketch, by the way. "Please enjoy this Cable book, and if you've already initiated a process of acquiring a better copy, please put this into the pile for the next Mission 22 auction. As long as it's up to snuff. I have no visual art ability whatsoever, so a handwritten letter is the best I can do. Merry Christmas, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Frog Brawler." And it says, "Best I can do is a letter with a meme," and he made a really funny post on the Gemini mailer too that has to do with the flap being on the inside or outside. I'll try to post a picture of that here. But that was a really nice gesture. And so, yeah, I did get a better looking copy. That copy, I had another conversation with him. I don't know if I'm going to put it in the Mission 22 auction. I will try. I don't know if that's really going to be the best place for it, but it's going to go to something for the channel, which in the end, anything that goes to the channel eventually is going to get back to the next Heroes for Heroes auction, whether that's premium memberships, channel members. If you guys are channel members, maybe that's a prize in a channel membership package or something like that. And then those channel memberships. help me get the funds that I need to get going on Heroes for Heroes every year. So I just thought that was really cool. I'll try to post in some pictures of some of the stuff that happened along the way, like the art I sent him, maybe that kind of stuff. That was a really nice gesture. I really appreciated that. So thanks, Frog Brawler, and I'm happy to have a first appearance of Hope Summers as an adult. And yes, I do have multiple copies of X-Men 205. Still looking for the J. Scott Campbell variant, but it's pretty pricey, which is the first appearance of her as a baby, J. Scott Campbell, Emma Frost cover. That's pretty cool. But I do have 2 copies of the regular version of X-Men 205 that I got from Comic Sam, actually doing a trade with him. So that was really cool. And so speaking of just the awesomeness of my viewers and the channel members and everybody out there, I do have another one to show off. This is from John from Action Figure Grader, who has his own YouTube channel. And this was an A-OK that he sent me, based partially on some of the work that I was doing for things like exposing scams and stuff like that. And people really responded well to that. And I appreciate it so much. He was very generous. He just let me know he was sending this over. He wanted an address. This is really cool. He knew it was on my list. It's a copy of Marvel Super Special 16. I mean, this is way nicer than I was looking for. It was super kind of him to send this over. I did not expect to get a graded copy of this. I just expected to get a raw copy, but this is awesome. And I'm just super appreciative of that. Thanks, John. I really appreciate it. Go check out Action Figure Grader on YouTube. Just a really cool channel and a really cool person to send this over. Thanks again. I appreciate it. Last, but certainly not least, the #1 book that I really wanted to pick up in 2023 was a copy of the classic Steranko cover, second appearance of Polaris. It is X-Men 50. And I went for a 4.0. It's kind of funny. This is kind of famously the one comic book that I would be cool with a green label on, but just because it looks so nice. Also would have been cool, the yellow label, to kind of go with the yellow there too. If I get a Steranko signature on it someday, that'd be cool. But 4.0, perfectly fine grade for me for this book. Very much a very fun book to have, and I'm excited to have it in the collection. So real fast, I went to go start editing this video, and I realized that I didn't actually include the 10th comic book. So if you were doing the math during the top 10 of 2023, you probably noticed something there. The reason why is because it didn't fit in the stack of books, even the slabs that I was pulling from, because it's a Treasury sized book. And it is giant size Kung Fu Bible stories. This is a Treasury sized book. It's absolutely massive. And the reason that I wanted to pick this up is because I was under the impression that this was the first comic book appearance of Empowered, which is a comic book I really love by Adam Warren. However, I actually was pointed, once I posted this, that I picked this up, I was actually informed by a couple different viewers that this is not the first appearance of Empowered in a comic book. That honor belongs to the Empowered Special #1, the Winch of a Million Size. I can't remember exactly what the subtitle is on that book, but that would be the first appearance of her as a comic book standalone and not inside a graphic novel or the web comic, which obviously you can't get the first web comic. And I don't really consider the graphic novel collected trade paperback version to be her first appearance. So to me, that's the first appearance of her in a comic book. And this is still a really fun book to have. Don't get me wrong. It's a really cool book. I posted a lot of art from it that was very interesting and fun to look at over on my Instagram too. So worth checking out. Very happy to have this. It's kind of cool to have my first actual Treasury sized comic book in the collection. I hate figuring out how to store it, but other than that, it's fun. And yeah, really cool book that I recommend. Okay, back to the other recording before I started editing. So what else did I get in 2023? Well, I got a lot of other comic books, so let's talk about some of those. Some of these I might just throw in pictures of stuff I picked up, but I actually have kind of my box of stuff that, may need to be graded, that kind of thing over here. So I don't mind real fast kind of showing some of these off. Even though I have a graded copy, I got a nice raw copy, probably about a 9.4 of the first appearance of Carnage, first full appearance of Carnage. From the comic collection I bought, I got a second copy of ASM 601, very high grade copy. Definitely something I'm going to send it for grading at some point when I start doing grading again, because I have a couple copies. I'd like one of them to be graded. And then I did get 606, another classic cover. This one I did not have before. That was also in the collection I bought, and as well as this 608, which this is my second copy of this comic book, but nice one to have in the collection as well. Now, I did pick up a couple comics from the Heroes for Heroes auction as I was on the panel and I was bidding on things. And this one, it kind of makes sense why I bought it when you hear the story. I actually bought Avengers Annual number 10, first appearance of Rogue. And I did this as part of the Buy It Now claim. I had a bunch of these sent in by Your Next over on Instagram. And this copy was in really decent shape. You know, it's pretty good. I would call it maybe about a 8, maybe somewhere in that kind of range. And I had a graded, I think it was a 7.5 newsstand. So what I did is I bought this as part of the Buy It Nows I put up. You know, everybody got a chance at those pretty much. And then I threw mine up for auction right after that. So, you know, John's Comics with Kids actually got a chance to win that. And picked it up, which is really great. I'm glad it went to him. He's a big X-Men fan. I also at Rose City Comic Con got a second printing, which I'm fine with for this book. It's mostly a cover buy for me, and the cover's the same. But yeah, Batman 423, my first copy of anything of that book. That was really fun. Got a Dark Knight Returns in the comic book collection I picked up. This is a pretty cool one too. Blade in a newsstand, and this is a pretty crispy copy. That's the first appearance of Blade in a solo title, his own solo title. I did add, because of the movie news, you call it FOMO or whatever, but I didn't want to miss out. So I guess technically that is FOMO, of course. But I've been meaning to add this to my collection for a while. Booster Gold number 1, I got 2 newsstand copies of that. They're both in really decent shape, like 9.0 to 9.4, maybe even on one of them. So that's pretty cool. Got a Cable Deadpool 24. That's the first meeting of Spider-Man and Deadpool. This is one that I sold when I sold my collection, so it was nice to get this back. That is the first appearance of Lady Deadpool. This was just kind of neat because I never expected to get this. This was a very hard to get book. This is the Duke Ashcan. And I got this from Haha You Wish over on Whatnot, the night in New York City Comic Con. He happened to be at the panel and get one. That was really cool, so I was able to pick that up. I did love this Warren Liu homage to ASM 601. It's not going to show up on camera because it's foil. It's going to be kind of a pain, but I got the foil version of that. And these are a pair of comics I got at Rose City Comic Con from RFKA Comics. I got the first appearance of Carol Danvers, and then I got first Mystique. So very nice Miss Marvel books to grab. Got those as a set from him, along with that Batman 423. And I just like showing this one off. I actually can't remember. This would have technically been in 2022, but it was at the end of 2022. Omega Men 3. It's just in the same stack there, so I'm just going to show that off because I almost feel like that was a hot book in 2023, so why not? Another one of the bigger books that I picked up from the collection that I bought. This is Spider-Man Noir, first appearance of Spider-Man Noir number 1. A book I picked up from Kyle, my co-host on Devil's Advocates, because he was part of Heroes for Heroes in the second auction. That is a copy of TMNT. Number 1 is the fifth printing. Still cool to me because I just never thought I'd own a copy of that. Book I got from Prestige Worldwide Comics at Rose City Comic Con, Ultimate Spider-Man number 1, and I also picked up another copy of the first appearance of Mr. Sinister there as well, first full appearance. And then last but by no means least, this was the biggest, most surprising book I picked up in that collection that I bought in 2023. A book that I did not expect to ever own. I really thought this was out of my league. It's come down quite a bit, but I still really enjoy having a copy of this, and it's in good shape. I want to get it pressed and cleaned and graded just to see what it grades out as, just because I think that's fun. It is the first appearance of Ahsoka Tano in Star Wars Clone Wars number 1. I had no idea this was in the collection when I bought it. I was only able to review about 50 to 65% maybe of the collection before I made the offer and picked it up from my friend. And so went to my storage shed, and I was pulling some books that I wanted to take home and rebag and board and kind of, geek out over. And as I was pulling comic books out of my storage shed, this is one of the ones that popped out at me. And I was like, oh my gosh, had an entire early run of the Star Wars Clone Wars comics. So you can get issue 2s in there as well. Some of the other keys that are in that early part of the run, which is fun. So really excited to have that one. 2023 was a great year for comic book collecting for me. I picked up some really fun stuff. I want to know what you picked up. Let me know in the comments down below. In one of my next videos, I'm going to be going over what I'm hunting in 2024. It's going to be a little bit of an interesting strategy behind that, so you might want to tune in and see what I end up doing. At this point in the video, I'd love to thank my channel members. You folks are really helping me out. As I haven't been making a ton of videos, it's really been helpful to have your support coming in, and I promise I am getting back to making videos. I'm actually probably going to cover that in a future video as well, kind of like what my process is and what's been going on to kind of talk about that. I've talked about a couple live streams, but I really kind of want to flesh it out. So my channel members' names are scrolling by on the screen right now. I really want to say thank you. And if you're new to the channel, because this is the first video I've made in a while, I might be actually getting some new viewers on this video. I will say that if you want to follow me, there's links below down to my Instagram where I post lots of pictures of these kinds of comic books. Also my Discord server where I help people, find comic books and we talk about collecting and collecting strategies and all those kinds of things. And also you can follow me on Facebook and X and all those fun places. Definitely go check me out there. You can also see me over on Devil's Advocates on the EXP channel on Mondays with my co-host Kyle. So definitely go check out all those places. Let me know down below in the comments what you picked up in 2023. And until then, I just want to remind you, as always, hey. Read comics every day.